Ingredient number 8, personal mentorship. Personal mentorship really goes back to our player-centered approach, which was our first ingredient, number 1. I firmly believe that by meeting the player where they're at and focusing on helping them learn, instead of focusing on what we can teach them, we're going to go a lot farther and achieve a lot more together. That's a concept I learned from my mentor, Ron Ecker, which he said in a very simplistic quote that had a profound impact on me, was study learning, not teaching. Because by helping people learn, you will help them learn a lot more than you could by trying to impose your teaching upon them. So by taking a personal mentorship approach, we're really trying to become the player's sidekick, in effect. We're not coming in as the overbearing, dominant coach authority figure that's going to tell them what to do and yell at them if they make mistakes and make them run sprints and punish them for messing up. We're not coming in as the drill sergeant. We're coming in as their guide on the side rather than the sage on the stage. It's a quote from a guy named Joe Polish, which I really like. Guide on the side instead of sage on the stage. So instead of being up on that platform of a stage, talking down to an audience or down to a player, we are coming down to their level and becoming their guide on the side. I actually like to welcome every player that comes to our Confidence Formula program by writing them a personal note when they sign up and basically telling them, I look forward to being part of your journey and working alongside you as you pursue the next part of your basketball career. And just kind of making that perspective known from the get-go that, we're here to be your sidekick, be your guide on the side, and help you along the path that you've already laid out. Like, players already know where they want to go, and we're coming to help them achieve that. So where we focus our attention as a team and as a coaching staff and overall as a program is that we're here to stand next to you as a player and see the world from your perspective and then show you where you are compared to where you want to go and start laying out that path to guide you where before you couldn't see a way forward. It's commonly where players are. Like, they're in the end of 7th or 8th grade, they're looking toward high school and they're not sure they're going to make that jump. They don't really see a way forward with the skill set, the capabilities they have. So we end up helping each player move toward what they see as the end goal and moving past their current struggles, constraints, whatever they see as missing right now. So I spend a lot of time embracing that perspective of the player and then starting to work on shaping how they think about themselves, which is really where the starting point has to be as a mentor, is like change how a player perceives themselves and then change how they think about basketball, especially around decision making and really how they think about learning in a lot of ways. So when we first start training with a player, we want to understand where they're coming from, where they've been, what their basketball experience has been so far, and then by talking them through their past and reviewing what they've run into, what they've struggled with, we arrive at kind of where the key leverage points are to start moving them forward. And I like to talk about the aspirational context, which is kind of a wordy way to say, what's the big dream? Where do they want to go? What is their biggest dream or biggest aspiration? And kind of using that to provide the context surrounding what we're going to be working on. Are they just trying to get to a level where they're going to enjoy playing basketball in the park with their friends in the summer? Are they 11-year-old that feels like they are destined to play in the NBA, which is very common? Or, are they an 8th grader just set on trying to make their varsity team at high school, and they are bound and determined to make a run at being the best player they can possibly be to try to achieve that? Wherever they place that highest aspiration or ambition, we're trying to embrace that as a context, rather than, shooting down that dream. We're going to say, okay, given that you're going to be an NBA player, 10 years from now, what do we need to do 5 years from now? What do we need to do 3 years from now? What do we need to do tomorrow to start moving toward that? and just really use that as their big aspiration, big inspiration that's, way out there in the future and kind of too big and too far away to really make a concrete measurement toward. We're going to bring them down to the nitty gritty, day to day, month to month, year to year. What's the next threshold we need to get across in order to move toward that big dream? And so we spend a lot of time discovering, where that aspiration is through our confidence index scorecard we've developed, and through our parent consultation calls, and then through our time with the player on the court, really discovering what they're about and where they've been and where they're going, and then identifying exactly where they are now and what they need. And we go through that whole process, then the mentorship part kind of comes naturally when we approach each specific player with the mindset of, okay, Johnny needs XYZ in the next 3 months because he needs to make the freshman team next season. It really brings a lot of clarity down to 2 or 3 key results, key skills that will leverage his ability to move toward that objective. Maybe he's a big, tall 8th grader that played in the post this year, but he's going to be moving into a guard role in high school. Like, developing ball handling and shooting skills is like key number 1 and 2. And if we get those done, then suddenly his ability to reach that freshman level of high school is a lot more achievable. And taking the mentorship approach means, by definition, that we're not going to be a drill sergeant. We're not going to be drilling Johnny to death in order to get him to his goal, because long term, killing his love for basketball with that approach is the one thing that's guaranteed to prevent him from actually achieving his goal. If we can be his guide on the side and constantly be pulling him just one step further toward the big dream that he established for himself, then that motivation is able to stay alive regardless of how tough it gets, how much adversity he's going through. We can keep his mindset on track and keep his motivation high by making it a small piece at a time without drilling him or punishing him for messing up or not achieving things fast enough, which really is completely against the whole idea of mentorship. So those really are a great alignment in my mind. Something I really enjoy about the mentorship is that it aligns with my whole philosophy of peaceful coaching, that by being a peaceful coach, I naturally become a mentor. And if I were to break one side of that commitment to being a peaceful coach, I would be killing my ability to be an actual mentor that's helpful and useful to the player. So, instead of trying to drill him through, force him to go reach the goal that he's set for himself, we're just going to be there to show him, this is what it looks like, this is what it means, this is how it feels to work at that level of precision and focus and energy and intensity to achieve, whatever level that he's going after. So all the things that Johnny doesn't know as an 8th grader, we can pour into his mind and into his heart, the game applicableness of his skills, learning how to learn, developing situational decision making, and really becoming the confident and aggressive competitor, developing that mentality he will need to succeed. We just show him what that looks like, and again, pull him into that next step one piece at a time. So, that way when he arrives at tryouts, let's say it's high school freshman season, it's usually a big jump for whatever middle school team or AAU team even you played for in 7th, 8th grade. Like, high school is a big change up all of a sudden. And that's where a lot of kids have, a lot of stress and anxiety, like, am I going to make the team? Where am I on the totem pole of all the players trying out? Maybe it's 50 or 60 players across the whole high school program. Like, there's a lot of stress that comes with that. So having the long-term approach and the mentorship guide on the side to support that and show him what it looks like in advance, he's not going into tryouts looking at this as, this is new, scary territory with bigger, faster players. Instead, he is thinking, I am the bigger, faster, more experienced, more mature, more confident player, more so than anybody else in the tryout, and therefore, making my high school freshman team is a no-brainer. I'm probably going to make the JV team because my mentality, my body language, everything else is much more aligned with playing high school basketball by really, again, changing his thinking in the early stages. A year or more ahead of high school tryouts, he's been thinking of himself as a high school player all along and practicing in that mode, or maybe practicing in a higher mentality of trying to be a varsity player, trying to be a college player, or trying to be an NBA player. And so, the freshman tryout is just like, yeah, this is the next notch in my belt to step forward toward my really big dream. And so all that stress and anxiety is kind of removed. I know I belong here, and I'm probably even going to move up faster than my grade would say, I'm eligible for. And, that impacts a lot of things, is his peers and even his coaches. Like, they're going to read his body language when he walks in the gym and plays in the first scrimmage and does, whatever drill the coach pulls out of the air for the day at tryouts. This player is going to be comfortable because basketball makes sense to him, and he's comfortable adapting to really anything that's thrown at him because his big aspirational context is so much larger than just what he's achieving at that high school tryout. Again, that feels comfortable, feels easy, and feels like a sense of belonging that he already knows he's supposed to be there. He knows what he's capable of. And he's probably been working for a year or more toward achieving that threshold of being on the freshman team at tryouts. And he's had a personal mentor by his side all along that's had that really big perspective of the long-term dream. They've had that in mind all along. And kind of a side benefit of that, a subtle thing that comes out of the mentorship approach, is that the player's able to more easily focus in the moment on what they're working on to achieve in a really small, kind of minute detail, really specific skill set or concept they're working on, because they know their mentor, their coach, has their back with the big picture already built into whatever they're working on, right? The mentor has the big long-term timeline perspective in mind of that big dream they know the player wants to achieve, and then they're able to become the one guiding the player to focus right now on this piece as the one thing, the next important step toward that bigger goal. And it frees the player's mind up instead of trying to do everything at once and wondering if they're working on the right thing, and spending all their time finding all these disparate YouTube videos that have wildly different approaches and different philosophies and playing styles and different levels of complexity that probably don't apply to where the player's at in their progression. Instead, they're able to just trust that their mentor knows what the big long-term progression looks like. They know where they're headed, and the mentor is able to guide the player into the mindset of, in this moment, in this day, this week, this season, this is where your attention needs to be. And the player is kind of able to relax and really just embrace that and trust that this is the right thing to work on, and I can put my whole heart, soul, energy, and focus into just getting better at this piece right now. And then I know next month coach will have the next thing for me and the next level of challenge coming. And so I'm able to just keep doing what's right in front of me as the player and trust that the long-term result is going to happen because I have a mentor that knows me, knows what he's talking about, and has intentionally designed a plan for what I need to do to advance in order to achieve what I told him that I wanted, what I set as my aspirational goal, and what I've decided is the end result I want to achieve as a player.